Hi, it's Amanda again. I did a video last night of taking my makeup off to show my port wine stain that most of y'all did not realize was underneath my makeup because of the wonderful coverage of SeneGence. And I've been asked to do a video on how I actually apply my makeup and what I use so that other people can duplicate it. I've already washed my face, so I'm ready to start with all of my steps. I'm gonna get a little bit closer so that you can see what we're dealing with. It's a little bit darker in the morning after sleeping for a while. Got the wild and crazy hair going to get it pulled up to before I fix it. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing that I use is my anti-wrinkle treatment, which is almost out. Put a little bit on your finger. Rub it all over. Always get your neck, and I use the excess to wipe on the back of my hands. Next, I use Climate Control. I put 4 sprays in my hand. Excuse me. And you can see it's not going anywhere from the gel. I rub it together, rub it on my face, rub it on my neck, and again, the backs of my hands, because the backs of your hands age just like your face, and we don't want our hands telling our age when our face doesn't. Next is SeneSerum C. Just one little pump. I rub it together in my hand to crush the little pearls. Rub it on my face. And again, y'all know the drill. Neck and the backs of my hands. All right, the next thing that I do, I don't use a daytime moisturizer because I need the slight coverage of the light tinted moisturizer, because what the light does even by itself is it evens out your skin tone, and I need that to kind of start with this process. So I take the light, I do 1 squirt on my finger, tap my finger together. I get the bulk of it on my birthmark side so that it can start trying to help me by evening out the pigmentation on my skin. Plus, it's just like your normal daytime moisturizer, so that's why I do it all over. It is a botanical shield of SPF 15, so we're starting to do the sunscreen as well. Okay, I'll show you a little bit of what it looks like. It hasn't done much, but it started to make it a little bit lighter, so I don't have to cover quite as much. Okay, the next I use is our green. I take a little bit. A little bit goes a long way on this, so don't go crazy. After I've had my treatment, which I'll have another one in January, and I can do a video on that, I have to use Mystic Moss with it, so I pretty much look like Fiona from Shrek before I get going, because we've got a lot to cover. But I take my green, tap it, and I tap this on just so I get a little bit better coverage. Even though I'm moving up and down, I'm really not pulling a whole lot. I'm mainly just tapping it in place. And the reason I use green is because green covers red pigmentation. So, tap, 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 tap. And once I finish, that is what I look like with green. Okay. Now, depending on how dark the red is that you're trying to cover, depends on how green you need it. Sometimes I mix it with the white to get a little bit. If you don't have the white, you can definitely use the snow shadow scents so that it can help you do that as well. All right, the next thing I use is the natural concealer. I utilize that to try to get more of a natural colored base before I put my foundation on. All right. On my finger. Again, I haven't used a palette for anything yet. All right, now once I do this, I'm actually pulling this around with my fingers. I'm just covering up everywhere that I put green and a little bit further so that my foundation has a little bit more base to hold on to. Put a little bit over here so that it looks more even and it doesn't look thicker on my right side than my left. Okay, this is what it looks like with the natural concealer. And now we'll go for the palette. Need my handy dandy makeup palette for this. And I use the light tinted moisturizer again. I use a squirt of that. I am fair since I can't get in the sun having my treatments done. So I use Ivory regular Make Sense Original Foundation. I utilize a squirt of that. And then on the palette, I put a squirt of our pearlizer. Most people use a squirt of 1 pump of foundation and 1 pump of pearlizer, and that's enough. I have to do a little bit more because I have to do a second layer, second coat for coverage. Mix it all together with the back of my stipple brush, my handle, and I start putting it around. I wet the ends of the bristle just from my little water. Sorry. Little water on my fingertips. And then I start the application. Put a little bit in here. You see a little bit on the ends. And all I'm doing is pouncing up and down. I get one layer, so to speak, on. And since I need a little bit more coverage, I do a little bit more in my trouble area, which is my nose and my cheek and my upper lip. Pouncing all over, go down a little bit. Our foundation changes shades up to 3 to 4 shades depending on, but since I have so much underneath with the green and the natural, I have to get pretty much the right shade. All right, once I've done that, see it's covered, but it's still kind of there. So what I do is I take natural powder and I put it, pour it out on my palette too, because I like to use a bigger powder brush to get a little bit more, area to cover at one time. So what I do is I just brush my powder on. I am throwing everything this morning. Guess I'm not awake. Okay, So my powder is on, and I have a bristle, which we don't need. Okay, so I've done my powder. Then what I do is I go back to my foundation, and I, in essence, put another layer on top. Since I've set the first layer with the powder, I can now put a second layer on, and that gives me the coverage that I need. And even though I'm covered on my left side, I put a little bit more so that it's not as obviously thinner looking than, or sheer as the other side. So I just pounce away and put it on where it needs it. Sometimes, some mornings it covers better and in places, and sometimes you just have to go back over it. And my nose doesn't seem to want to stay this morning, so that's no problem. Go back to my powder. It's all trial and error anyway. Mary Beth's trying to hide. You might as well say hi. Oh, she ran. She's doing her makeup too, so we're trying to get ready for the day. Okay, so since it didn't cover real well the last time, take what I have left, which isn't a whole lot, and I will go over that area again. And I can already tell that that is done this time. So, one more powder to set this last little bit. And that is now covered. Oh, I missed a little spot down here. Not the greatest. I'm using your phone as a mirror. But that is how I do my SeneGence and how I get it to cover. I'm gonna pause the video, do one eye, and come back and show you that.